Hey everyone, it's Christopher Swan, and welcome to this week's episode of Living Your Journey. Each week, I have this amazing opportunity to chat with people that love what they do in life. They understand their passions and their direction. Maybe it's a career path or it's the social impact that they're making. It's kind of like they're following their North Star, but they know their story may change and they understand that they're on their journey every day. On the show this week is not just one guest, but two. It's Andrew and Dennis, or better known to their fans as the Crafty Lumberjacks. This real-life couple have created a fun-loving brand of easy-to-follow craft and DIY projects via their blog, Instagram, and even through a gig with HGTV Handmade. Not only are their ideas and crafts clever, their personalities shine through everything they do. Their work is also full of positivity and happiness. I've been chatting with Andrew and Dennis for about a year now, and I gotta tell you, I love everything that they're doing. In our chat today, we talk about Crafty Lumberjacks, the brand, business momentum, and even how they're feeling their way through much of it. Another important point of our conversation is their focus on their other careers, stage actors in New York City. You see, they're in the middle of the moment of feeding their own business while still pursuing an entertainment career. This was an honest conversation of still figuring out how things are going to work, with some lessons learned and a big focus on being yourself to love what you do and to really connect with your fans. And I had so much fun getting to know them both better. Everyone, meet the Crafty Lumberjacks. Welcome to the show, Andrew and Dennis.
Hi!
Hey! It almost feels weird to call you by your names. Can I tell you that? Because I'm always like, the Crafty Lumberjacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get that question. That's probably like our most
asked question. Who's who?
Who's who?
Oh.
And we never know really how to answer. It's like, the tall one's Andrew.
That's funny. I actually do know it because I've obviously researched the heck out of you on the back end, which is, I have to tell you, out of people that I research, and I do this a lot, so I'm pretty good at this, finding information specific about each one of you is a little difficult.
Ooh.
Oh.
And I think part of that is because your last names aren't around online very much.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
which I'm sure is purposeful. So because of that, I have finally figured out which one is Andrew and which person is Dennis. So I have figured those out. So anyways, I'm super excited to talk to you today because, you know, you're so much fun to follow online. We've been doing that for a while on Instagram and other places. I've been chatting with you for like over a year. You're a super adorable couple, so that's a lot of fun as well. So here's what I want to do. I want to jump into our conversation with something I've really been thinking about. So it's not going to be like, let's start at the beginning. What I want to do is I want to ask, what do you guys do when you're not in agreement on what you want to craft or how you want to do it?
Ooh. I mean, that happens a lot. Well, not like a lot, but I think we're always kind of having conversations on like what we personally think we should be doing or where the craft should go. And I would say that we usually find a happy agreement, or we just decide to trust the other's opinion. And it seems to work out.
And we work really well together. That's why kind of this has been going so well, is because one of us will start with an idea and then we're able to play off of that and kind of grow and kind of make it to what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, sometimes we like get like attached to like a certain craft that we're working on. And then it's like if the other person doesn't like it, we get a little like butt hurt by it. But I think we get over it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have the same skill sets as well, or do you bring something a little bit different so it complements much easier?
I think it's a mix of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we definitely have different skill sets that we both bring into it. And I think we know each other's strengths. And at this point, we just kind of pass it on to the other person if we think they can do something a little better. But I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay, let's go back to the beginning a little bit. I'll go backwards. So, you know, you've been doing the crafting kind of DIY thing for quite a long time. And especially from the fans and the people that follow you, you know what you're doing and you do some really cute stuff and it's all the time. But how did crafting start for the both of you?
Well, Andrew and I are really both actors, and that's how we first met. We both did the national tour of Fiddler on the Roof, and that's where we first met. We rehearsed in New York, and we kind of started with an instant friendship, and then our friendship developed into a relationship. We were always kind of doing different things for our cast members. Or, it was Halloween, we do like a little Halloween grab bag, or like Valentine's Day, we were doing crafts and
little Valentines,
cards and things, and every holiday or like different events would come up, we would kind of make something and share it with the cast.
And then it became kind of expected from the cast members to kind of have something.
Right. Yes, exactly. We ended up doing the tour for 2 years, and kind of as a way to keep in touch with all our cast members and friends that we've made throughout the tour. Everybody kept encouraging us, why don't you guys start a blog? And we were like, I don't know. Also because it was new in our relationship, so we didn't really know where our relationship was going. And we were like, maybe we should do a little blog, and we'll just share the little things we do. And this is the way that our friends and family can kind of see what's going on.
Yeah, and we kind of realized that they were like our smallest crowd. They kind of fizzled out, like none of our friends and most of our family don't really follow our blog, or they seem to kind of they just don't really seem to be as interested. I don't know if that's true, but it just suddenly we just started getting all these strangers interested in what we were doing, and we were just so surprised, and it kind of snowballed from there. But Dennis was crafting as a kid, as was I. Dennis went to craft fairs with his mom, and they were crafting together at a young age, and I was crafting as well. My mom was crafty too. We both have memories of decorating for holidays, so I think everything kind of stemmed from childhood, and it's just we were doing what we liked to do as kids, and it just kind of stemmed from that. Yeah.
So as you guys were doing that, and actually, let me pause and say this fizzle out piece that you talk about friends and family, I think that's actually almost sort of normal. I've noticed that as well, just with things that I do, where I'm like, maybe it starts with them, but then all these strangers that don't know you are super excited because that's maybe the topic they're looking for. So I think you maybe have more like that super fan. So let me ask this then. You mentioned this earlier that you both were actors, and that's how you met on the national tour of Fiddler on the Roof. So I also read that you guys still call yourself actors. So you're both in entertainment, even though the craft thing is really big for you right now.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about this. Are you both on an entertainment path still? And if so, has that evolved from what you saw it before?
We are both auditioning regularly here in New York.
Yeah, and just a few months ago we did a production of Anything Goes Together in Rhode Island. So we're still picking up theater gigs here and there, but we kind of put everything on hold for this.
Yeah, we're trying to kind of find a balance. We want to be pursuing acting. That's why we live in New York. That's why we moved here together. And the Crafty Lumberjacks, the DIY stuff, kind of started as a hobby and now is presenting us with the opportunity of being a business and
a full-time career.
Yeah. So we're kind of what do we do? Do we keep auditioning? Do we focus on the DIY? So we're trying to find a balance.
Well, when you talk about acting too, is that, because you mentioned New York, is that then theater specifically? Because, if you're in entertainment, if you're an actor, if you want, obviously, movies and that sort of stuff, you're usually in Los Angeles. So is that the focus?
Yeah. The focus is for musical theater. But I mean, Andrew and I are the kings of freelance work. We kind of do a little bit of everything. So we do musical theater. We also direct and teach children. We choreograph for theaters. We do children's theater. So we kind of do a little bit of everything.
I think as an actor in the city, you kind of find yourself picking up as many jobs as you can. You're kind of juggling everything all at once. We've done a gazillion side jobs. We've done the most random things just to pick up some cash. We were talking about someone.
We did the cactus.
We did this one where we had to glue Swarovski crystals to cactuses, to cacti. It was the weirdest thing. We're like, what are we doing with ourselves? We've dusted off soap for hours for a soap company. We were at a singing flash mob at a bat mitzvah where the girl she looked mortified.
Yeah.
So I feel like we kind of do everything all at once.
Well, I think that's actually a real theme, though, for I think people that are breaking through in some sort of entertainment. It's usually, like a musician, an actor, somebody, you got to do whatever you can.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's what's so great about the DIY Crafty Lumberjack stuff is that if we can support ourselves with just this, it would be awesome to kind of use that as a platform, too, to get into whatever theater job we want
Yeah, I mean, I feel the struggle with New York right now is that it's so saturated with actors and so many of them are talented, but what people are looking for is a name. They're looking for people with a following to attract people to the theater, whether that be a local regional theater in Wyoming or the Broadway stage. So we're hoping that, with Crafty Lumberjacks, we get a platform where it could help us and we could benefit with our acting career as well.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense. I was asking about the theater versus more of maybe like a Los Angeles career, because I know that you guys have started to really push on your YouTube channel and do more pieces on there. Now, it's not acting per se. You're doing like an apartment tour, you're doing your crafts, you're doing different things. But, that's really become this whole new form of entertainment. So is there a bridge there for you with still doing theater in New York and how you're going to maybe expand YouTube in the future?
Yeah, it really is so different. Acting and being on, just like putting yourself out there on the YouTube channel it's almost like 15 times harder just to point a camera at yourself and talk and just be yourself than to get up on a stage with a character that you're trying to embody. We really struggled about 4 or 5 years ago. We tried to make a YouTube video, and I think we might have watched 2 minutes of it before we shut it down, never looked at it again.
Say, no, we're not doing this.
Oh my God, our voices are so annoying. We look horrible. We are stuttering while we're talking. So, and it's still a struggle. We really had to push ourselves to start this YouTube channel just because it is uncomfortable to be yourself. It's hard because that's what people really want. People really want to see what you do on your downtime, who you are as a person. I mean, I think people are really interested in the crafts, but they're also really interested in just who we are as people. And it's hard to be vulnerable like that, but we're pushing ourselves to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree, because as I researched you guys, and I was like, what do I label you guys? They're actors? Are they crafters? Are they DIYers? They're all of that. And then I also thought, you've become internet personalities now. You become influencers, digital influencers. Have you thought of yourself that way?
Not really. We actually had a conversation not too long about this. Even the same thing with the actor label. It was kind of when do you really actually start to call yourself an actor? Is it when you get your first paying gig? Is it if you're in a high school show? So we were kind of, because we know a lot of influencers, and we're kind of how did they get this label? Or do they just decide that that's who they are?
Right.
And then our friend Nick, who is in some of our Instagram videos and posts, he does the dancing videos with us. He was kind of you guys are influencers. You need to embrace that. We're no,
I know, because it doesn't feel any different. We did really start this as a hobby for the longest time. I remember with Instagram when we got 100 likes, we basically threw ourselves a party. We were so excited. We were oh my God, 100 people like this
that's
picture.
Amazing.
And now, that feeling really, it's so weird to hear that we have a following or even,
sometimes we'll walk on the street in New York and people will call us out. They'll be oh my God, Crafty Lumberjacks. And we're what?
It's always
you know who we are? Weird.
It's always when we're our grumpiest and
I know,
our
we're
worst.
Miserable.
And sometimes we're oh my God, great.
Of course.
But it doesn't, it's so weird because Instagram, especially, we feel so connected with people, but at the same time, it's us in our living room. And It just like kind of doesn't feel like anything has changed in the past 5 years, but we know it has. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I love that you guys are like, I could just imagine you're like, right? I'm on spot, right? Do you feel different? Do you feel like it's changed?
That make sense?
Sometimes I just feel like I'm rambling, so you just stop me.
Well, actually, it's perfect too, because it makes me just think about this last year, and we talked about this even before this interview, that this last year has really kind of blossomed a lot. Like it kind of, I know that you guys have been doing the work and really putting in the effort for years now, but this last year you just jumped it forward so much. You had this HGTV Handmade on YouTube show that launched, I think, even a bigger platform for you. You've done so much. So within that comment you just talked about, like, it doesn't feel like it really changed. I'm still in my living room. Over the last year, has it felt a little bit different in that regard? Yeah,
it has. It has. It's still tricky, though, because even with the HGTV Handmade stuff, that we all film here in our apartment. So again, it's kind of like we're prisoners in our own home. Not really. Obviously, we're so blessed. And I mean, this kind of fell into our lap, which is like an amazing thing that happened for us.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I would say once, like, when we shot our first set of HGTV Handmade videos, when they brought in the cameras.
Yeah, that was exciting.
That was real. Like that felt real, because our blog and our Instagram has always been just us and our iPhones. We haven't yet invested in a nicer camera. We're always looking, but we're not great with technology. So when they brought all that equipment and we were like, oh my God, like this is feeling legit, and it was great, and it is exciting. But then it goes, and then we're back to
now what, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard thing, because this is all new to us. Like we said, it was just a hobby that's been kind of taking off. We kind of don't really have guidance or no stepping stones of how to go to the next place. And it's been a blessing to have the Handmade team, because they're very generous. They're there for us. We have questions. They're on top of it. They let us know what we should be doing, what we should be looking into, how to take the next level. So we're lucky with that.
Yeah, but that is probably our biggest struggle is, I mean, I think it's a blessing and a curse. It's we have no one to like push us in a direction we don't want to go to, but we also are just kind of fumbling around on our own, trying to figure out what the next best step is.
Right. And also because the theater and the acting thing is still such a huge passion of ours, it's kind of like, do we put that aside for a little bit and really just focus on this? Like, this could turn into a full career where we're, making a nice living. And
we're given this chance right now. We're trying to
find a balance. And, we were thinking that this is kind of really just the beginning of this journey with the Crafty Lumberjacks. Even though we've been doing it for the past 6 years, it's kind of really just starting now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can absolutely see where you guys would be torn, because it sounds like you also really, I mean, you love acting, but you really must enjoy the Crafty Lumberjacks as well. True?
Oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's more that we aspire to be actors growing up, and Crafty Lumberjacks, we really started as a hobby, and then it was just like, oh, this could be a career. Sure. Like it kind of like blindsided us with this opportunity, and we're thrilled to take it, and we definitely want it. It was just unexpected.
We've been kind of like struggling because we've been putting all this work and effort into the blog and taking pictures, coming up with new ideas, but we really weren't getting a lot of views. Our Instagram has always done well, but we were kind of like struggling to see how we can take this to the next level. And even if it was worth, continuing to do it, because we were like, what are we doing this for? Are we doing this for us? Are we doing this for, our 500 followers? Or like, what is the point of this?
But now.
Yeah, but then, everything worked out with the HGTV stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, now that's why we were doing it.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, but it was crazy the way it happened, because they just approached us. They came to us and they said, hey, we love what you're doing. Would you want to do this? And we were like, yeah, of course.
I'll never forget that email.
I know.
It's like, oh my God, HGTV emailed us. It was incredible. It felt life-changing in a way.
Yeah. It has been so far.
Yeah.
It must have also felt like it was like almost acknowledgement of all the work that you guys have done really made sense. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Over this, since working with them, and even just over this last year, as you guys have, advanced further and further, have you, and I know you guys aren't really like which direction you're going to go, have decided on that, but have you started to think about what Crafty Lumberjacks could be in the future? Like, gosh, in the next couple of years, we could really go to this goal?
Yes, we definitely talk about our goals. I think having that entertainer bug in us, I think our goals definitely are about us being on camera more.
Right.
Like we would love a show. We would love like a craft show. I think that would be like our ultimate goal. Yeah. Are you going to expand on that?
No.
You're just putting it out there so somebody else can send you an email and say, we'd love to give you a craft show.
Oh my gosh, of course.
I see how this is working. Okay.
But I think we have goals, but they often change with like, we'll just be sitting
for sure.
on the couch, just be like, oh, this would be so great if we could do this, or so I think, it's just, it's evolving into many ideas of what we want.
Yeah, and like we said, this has really just been happening over the last 5 months. Like we first started working with HGTV in October.
I think September, yeah.
October, yeah. So really now, like I said, it's the beginning of this journey with the Crafty Lumberjacks to kind of really see where this can go and how far we can go with it.
Has there been any like lessons learned since then that because here's what I think is really interesting. I asked about this lessons learned because you mentioned you don't have somebody who's pushing you maybe in the wrong direction, or even maybe somebody who's really advisory, and it's kind of this new craft influencer space you're in. But have you felt like, oh yeah, we won't do that again, or because you've also had years of it in the past background of learning on as you go?
Yeah, I would think a lesson that we have learned from just like our past would probably be about doing content that we're really not into. Yeah. I think when we started, we were trying to put out content like on a schedule. And I think that's important to push yourself, but oftentimes you would kind of be doing projects where it wasn't really what we wanted to be doing, or it didn't really
feel right.
Yeah, it just like didn't feel right.
Or it wasn't our best work.
Yeah, and we can look back on posts on our blog and we'll be like, I think too, most people would look like a great post. We could be like, oh yeah, I can tell we were like not feeling this one, or like it's weird that we did this post. So I think now we try, even if we don't get content out there like regularly, it's stuff that we really do have a passion for
or want to put out.
Yeah.
That's a smart thing. I can resonate with that. I almost went back and thought, yeah, there's some things I put on Instagram. Maybe not. Was I doing it just because I thought people wanted it? Or like, and do you kind of think about, was it just the schedule you were doing, or also kind of feeling your way to figure out what was right for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it was both for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the HGTV aspect that we've been talking about, any other kind of exciting moments since you guys have been doing this for the last 6 years?
Well, one thing that I love specifically is when someone actually makes a project that we've made and they share it with us. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of like the most exciting things that we ever get to encounter. Just when someone shares a picture of something that we...
Yeah, totally. Yeah, when they recreate something or were inspired by us and they share it, that's a pretty awesome thing. Yeah, like you were saying, Dennis, you were like, oh my gosh, like, remember you were saying, like, do you think people have like conversations about us? Like,
right.
Like, and that's so weird to think that other people might be talking about us.
Oh, yeah, because we had done like the sriracha maple bacon cheese ball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We did, sometimes we do like recipes too. And we did a sriracha maple bacon cheese ball, like inspired by our bagel store down the street. And they and like 4 or 5 people, which is not a lot of people, but they made these cheese balls for their Thanksgiving meal. and we're like, oh my God. And they're sharing us and saying, oh, it was a big hit. And we were kind of like, do you think like they were at Thanksgiving? And they're like, oh, this came from the Crafty Lumberjacks, like website or what?
It's such an odd thought to have, but it's a great one. It's like, oh my gosh, people like what we're doing and they're trying it, and that's really exciting. Yeah.
So you just totally hit on the recipe I was looking at yesterday.
Oh, really?
I was flipping through some stuff, and I follow you guys, and I know what you guys are up to, but somehow I had missed that, and I was like, oh, I need to write that one down because I need to make that at a holiday meal.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
We've been doing like these random pop-up like craft events around the city here. And those are kind of fun. And, we meet like a lot of interesting people from all different places.
Yeah, it's always, I think when we started, we thought it would be a lot of crafters, and it's really not a lot of crafters, which is great. It's people with 9-to-5 jobs that we don't understand, and they're coming and they're looking just for just a crafty outlet.
Just to hang out and be social.
It's so much fun. I love meeting those people.
And I know exactly what workshops you're talking about. Those, I think I've seen those. It's like, sometimes you even do it at a bar where it's like, have drinks, we'll craft, things like that.
Right,
yes.
Exactly. Yeah, they're like crafts and cocktails.
Yeah, I've been jealous of that. I thought, I think like that could be, I could see a lot of people loving that, and especially major metropolitan areas, Los Angeles, San Francisco.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's also something that, we've been asked this before, too, what people looking to be more crafty on their own, and we always say, add alcohol.
Yes.
It helps, but you can also just, make one of these craft parties and just invite your friends. Go to the dollar store. They have tons of cheap craft stuff. Go to a craft store and just grab a lot of materials, put it out, get some
snacks,
some booze, and I don't know, just sit there and talk, and I feel like then your hands just start doing things, and suddenly you're crafting.
There is so many crafters or craft in the world. How do you guys kind of stand out? What's your niche to do that, to stand out in this plethora of crafters?
Yeah, that is probably our biggest, one of our biggest hurdles is really trying to stay original when there's such a saturation on Instagram, on Pinterest. It really creates a block when you're trying to think of something. All of a sudden you're seeing so many incredible ideas, and then you're like, how am I going to top this? Or how am I going to think of one on my own? I think when we find inspiration is kind of looking at a small detail from that inspiration and then maybe trying to expand from that. Also, everything has been done. Dennis's mom gave us these craft books from, the early 80s, maybe, or the 70s?
Yeah.
And it's the same stuff that we're doing today. It's just kind of just has another spin on it.
Are you guys influenced by specific people out there, or not just crafters, but, is there stores, brands, things like that you are attracted to that maybe does help your inspiration or maybe sparks your ideas?
Yeah, definitely. I think, even when we just go out in the city and we're just window shopping, we'll find inspiration. And it's so great with our phones. We just take pictures and send it to each other. We're like, oh, I like this. We follow a lot of great influencers. One is Little Lee. And he is just a social media god.
Guru, yes.
Yeah,
he's out there all the time. He does all the newest pop-up stores and events. And
right, even just his Instagram stories, just the layout of them, I'm always inspired. I'm like, oh gosh, everything looks so interesting.
Yeah.
So I feel like we are definitely inspired by him. Our ladies from HGTV Handmade, our coworkers, they're totally inspiring. Some of them have been doing Handmade for 3 years, and they still come up with incredible content. Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you not be inspired by her? We've been watching her since we were babies.
We also love The Chew.
The Chew.
With Clayton Kelly and Carla Hall.
Of course, yeah.
They're big.
Oh my God, we love The Chew.
Yeah.
What else?
And just, we were kind of talking about this earlier, just people who are able to be themselves, and kind of, because we struggled with that too in the beginning, feeling insecure and letting our insecurities get the best of us. But anybody who can kind of just be themselves, and that is kind of creating a path or a life for themselves, or a journey, or a career for themselves, that is kind of like a big inspiration to us.
Oh my God, yeah.
That it can be done and people do it,
And I think that's the great thing about social media is it doesn't matter how many people you're following. We'll be inspired by someone with 20 followers. And
right.
I think what they're posting is incredible. Yeah, people who can be themselves that's really honorable. It's hard to be yourself. It's hard to show your flaws, especially this day and age. People are very critical.
Mm-hmm. They are, and I think people online, or maybe that's what influencers are sharing. I'm not sure. It's just this perfection that we see online, like life is perfect online. And then, the reality where it's like, actually, no, we all have flaws, or maybe I'm not as filtered as one might think on the online,
Yeah, definitely.
I think the thing that you just made the comment on, well, actually, both of you said it too, was this being yourself. And I think that comes through a lot in your brand. You creating these things, but you seem very genuine, and that comes through. I've been thinking about this for a while. I wondered about your, like, the brand that you've created, not just the name, though I do have a question about that. But it's really this, like, was the brand itself, the way you guys show up, was that natural? Was that just it evolved in that way? Like, oh, we want our work to look like this? Or was it kind of really thoughtful? Like, we want to be presented in this way?
I think it was natural.
Yeah, like organic.
Yeah, when we started doing the blog, it was about to showing our friends and family what we do, but it's also how we like to keep our apartment. Being actors, we don't have a lot of money, so we were crafting to make our apartment look nicer. And what you see on Instagram is basically how our apartment looks. That's kind of like what we like, pretty much like clean, modern, crafty, homey. I don't know. I'm just like naming adjectives now. But
yeah, I think that all just happened organically. And like Andrew said, like, we really didn't have, like, we just moved into our apartment right after tour. We first subletted down the street because we knew the area we wanted to move into. And then we finally found our apartment here, but it was, we didn't really have much money just because it's so expensive to first move into an apartment. So we just kind of started gathering stuff from thrift stores and, even off the street, picking up dressers and stuff. And then we kind of just had to refurbish it and kind of make it look nice. And that's kind of how everything started happening.
Yeah, I definitely think it was organic. I don't think we ever sat down and we were like, okay, like this is what we want our aesthetic to be. It just kind of is, I don't know, just been thrown together.
You'd never know it. What about the name? Where did you guys get up with Crafty Lumberjacks?
Crafty Lumberjacks, that kind of started too with the tour, because we were in Vancouver, and it was a Saturday, so it was a double show day. So Andrew and I were going to grab lunch down the street. We kind of left the theater after the afternoon performance, and we were walking down the street to get a sandwich or something, and we saw this guy on the street, and because we were doing Fiddler, we had these huge long beards. Like, one of the rules were you cannot shave. You just had to kind of let your beard grow out. And Andrew and I, of course, we've always been a fan of plaid, but we were walking down the street, and this gentleman was like, "Hey, lumberjacks, lumberjacks, lumberjacks." And we were like, "Okay, keep walking." And we just got our sandwiches, and then we went back to the theater, and on the way back, we saw the guy again, and he was like, "Lumberjacks, lumberjacks, lumberjacks." And we were like, okay. And then we went back to the theater, and then for whatever reason, that just stayed with us. And when we were kind of first coming up with a handle for our Instagram, because we knew we were going to do the blog, we were kind of like, what should we do? Crafty boys, crafty couple, we were like, oh, we should do Lumberjacks, just because we had just come off of Fiddler, and then it just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
I love that you claim it based on being kind of catcalled on the street.
I know. You're like, what?
I mean, that's kind of amazing. Hey, you remember that random stranger that kept calling us names?
I know. Literally, I remember sitting here in the living room and we were like, what should we do?
He knew something bigger. Hey, I want to talk a second it's a little bit relationship based. Because, you're a little bit different than a lot of businesses out there, where this has become a business, but you're a couple, and it started based on you guys working together. here's what I'm wondering is, has it been, or maybe rather than, I was going to ask you, like, has it been stressful or anything like that? But is there any advice you'd maybe provide to other couples that are trying to do a business together or something like this together that you have learned or wish you knew beforehand?
What would you say? I would say, I think something we struggle on is sometimes one of us feels really motivated and the other person doesn't. And I think sometimes that can kind of like,
tension. What can it cause?
No, like just I think it's like sometimes it's hard to be on the same page, especially when we're together all the time.
Yeah, and like we said, this is not the one thing we focus on. We're also focusing on like auditioning. We do have side jobs.
Yep.
My family's on Long Island, so I'm out on Long Island a lot. So it's kind of tricky just to find a balance where if Andrew's working a lot, I tend to be working more on like the blog and the Crafty Lumberjacks stuff, and when he gets home, I'm like, baby, okay, this is what we have to do. This is what we have to do.
I'm like,
and he's kind of like not in the mood because he just worked 7 hours.
Right. So I think, and something we're still trying to get a hold of is really getting a piece of our day and like using it as like office hours.
Right.
Just like putting everything else aside and just like focusing on like getting work done, because I think it's harder than being in a relationship together. It's working from home is like what we struggle with, because it's like we get up and then we just like make the coffee, turn on the TV, and
you want to just sit on the couch.
Yeah, and then we kind of get into this like lazy rhythm and then we're like, oh my gosh, okay, we need to like turn off the TV, we need to focus, we need to like get stuff done. Right. I don't know if this is answering your question at all.
If you think about the internet, it's saturated, and so many of these niches are saturated too. But what's something you would tell somebody who's starting their own thing that maybe they probably don't realize what they're getting into? And their own thing meaning a business, maybe kind of an influencer thing, a YouTube channel, anything fun like that. What would you tell them that they probably wouldn't know?
Well, I think they need to start small with just something that they really love and they're really passionate about, and just kind of let that passion drive them.
Yeah, even if that passion is just their space where they're living, just something as simple as that. Yeah, start small. I think going into it looking for a big platform is probably the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not about having a ton of followers. It's about
doing something you enjoy doing.
Yeah, because there is so much stuff, and there is going to be someone who has, more money to put into it. But I think people, in a way, they're just looking for honesty now. They're looking to see who you are.
Mm. Do you feel like that's kind of missing in some of the things online today? Like that honesty, or maybe the uncovered behind the scenes authentic?
I think it is and it isn't. I think there's a lot of things online seem very staged and put on, but I do think there are a lot of people who are kind of going against that. And that's refreshing.
Have you received any amazing advice over the last few years? And I'm not looking for something that'll change the world, but I'm just curious about, as you guys have evolved and it's been organic, you've talked about, some of your coworkers at HGTV and others that have maybe kind of shared some help. Any advice that you've received that's been really helpful?
Yeah, one actually comes from when I was in college doing like an acting competition. And it was my director. He kind of told me right before the competition, he said, cool head, warm heart. And that kind of stuck with me, and it's kind of been with me for life, and I pass it on to other students that I work with or anybody else, because I really feel it just kind of sums up everything. If you kind of just let your head relax and come from a genuine, passionate place and a good place in your heart, work will be there, or you'll come out on top, you'll survive.
And you'll show who you are.
Right.
Instead of trying to fabricate, before you get too much in your head.
Right.
And that's something that you told me years ago, and both of us, I think, before we go into auditions, we'll whisper to each other, like, cool head, warm heart. Even when Handmade was filming, I remember whispering it. Yeah. So I love that. I think that's really valuable.
And also, Igor at Engman told me, he said, any kind of new project that you're going to work on, you should always expect that it's not going to go the way that you planned. And that kind of stuck with me because, sometimes you get a little worked up because things aren't going the way that you imagined it or pictured it happening. And if you kind of go in there with that
mentality,
that it won't kind of frazzle you or shake you up because you're already walking in expecting that it's not going to go the way that you had already thought about.
That's true. Nothing ever goes how we expect it to.
Yeah.
Gosh, I resonate with that one. I was like, oh, Dennis gets me. Yeah. When I think about you guys, I do think about crafts. I also think like you're also this really positive role model for relationships. I also think that you are all about positivity. Everything you're posting is also very happy and joyous. And it's not just the way that you frame it, but you could just tell that you guys enjoy what you're doing and you're fun. And I watch your YouTube. So I take away, like it's almost like just time with a friend on something fun that they love to do. And it's really happy and positive. So is that kind of your intent, or am I just like, oh, I'm just super happy to know you guys?
No, I mean, I think that's great to hear because I do think that's who we are. We really try to stay. I mean, of course, we're not positive all the time to each other. It's the city can bring you down, but I do think we really try to be ourselves. We're really easygoing people. We like to be social. We like to have a good time. We like to be silly, and I do think that's what we try to show.
And I think it's with like the whole theater thing too. It's like. We want people to kind of feel pure escapism from everyday life when they're kind of looking at our posts or like our blog and just kind of have a moment where they can kind of just shut off for a little bit and kind of just say, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. We want to feel like people are just hanging out with us. We're casual.
And also there's someone asked me once, what do they want my legacy to be? And I thought it was an odd question, but after I thought about it, in Man of La Mancha, Don Quixote says, I hope to add measure. What is the line? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't know.
You can make it up. I won't know.
Let me try to think. It's something like, I hope to add grace to the world or something, a measure of grace to the world. And I just always think of that line, but obviously I'll have to really look it up.
All I can think of is RuPaul saying, lip sync for your legacy! All-Stars 2?
Yeah.
Christopher, do you watch Drag Race?
Yeah, not religiously, but I watch it quite a bit.
I don't know Man of La Mancha that well, sadly. But yeah, I think a little grace into the world is needed.
Yeah.
So I think that's even if that's not a real quote, I think that's great.
Thanks. Hey, thanks.
Wow, compliments keep coming. What's interesting is what I really liked about your answers. It wasn't that it was a staged, piped, written format of we're about positivity, blah, blah, blah. But I think it just seems to come naturally in what you're doing. You're doing what you like, what you love, and you're also sharing this kind of, as you said, we're casual, we're hanging out. We want you to hang out with us. We want to add more grace. So I think what's interesting about all this is it almost just feels like you guys aren't overthinking a brand. You aren't overthinking a business. You're just being you. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
And I boiled it down a little bit like that too, because I think for so many of us that like are trying to do things that we love, but also have a business, that it feels like sometimes we're like, let's be strategic. Let's come up with what this is going to feel like versus why don't you just do something you love and people might show up.
Right.
Yes. I think that's, I think that works. That's like
just as well.
I think like thinking of something like that will push you further than.
Right. Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
I know what you're saying. Well, and that's why I wanted to, kind of dive into that a little bit too, because I think you guys have this kind of fresh perspective where so many people I've talked to, really are on a strategic plan, which is not a bad thing. But I like that you guys are working from your heart, learning as you go, and just being really authentic and kind of opening yourself up. So I appreciate that.
Aw, thank you.
Thanks. We'll see if it works.
Yeah, we'll see how long we can
Really,
keep it out.
I'll check it in a year.
Right.
When you have your craft show on TV.
Yes.
You know, and the last question I always love to ask everybody, and this I think is going to probably be easy for you guys. Where's the best place to follow you online if people want to follow what you're doing and your story?
Well, now we have everything. We have Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
And Twitter. We're not very good at Twitter.
We're not good with Twitter.
I would say Instagram is probably
The
go-to, but we really are trying to go a little deeper with our YouTube channel. We are really trying to just like point the camera and just kind of be ourselves. So I think if you're looking for a little more in-depth, I would say our YouTube channel, but if you're looking for like an all-around sense, I would definitely say our Instagram.
Yeah.
Well, great. We'll share all of it to everybody as well. And I would say definitely your Instagram is a lot of fun feeds. And especially the stories. Instagram stories are always a lot of fun. And we'll definitely push your YouTube. Well, guys, this has been super great. I'm so glad that we worked this out.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Thank you. So what'd you think? Any new ideas? Are you going to try something new? I'm always left feeling great and have a ton of ideas after these conversations. The guests are totally energizing me. Speaking of being energized, did you guys know about my Awesome Finds newsletter? Each week I share creative spotlights, meaningful stories, and new ideas to spark your imagination. And the reason I'm really doing it, I just want to share the great stuff in the world that energizes me to energize you. So if you want to sign up or you want to find out more information about it, go to awesomefinds.info. That's AWESOMEFINDS.info. Okay, back to the show. If you want to share thoughts about the guest or how the show sparked a new idea, I'd love to hear about it. You can call me and leave me a message at 1-707-347-9312. Just include your name and a brief message, and you may even be featured on the next show. If you want to follow along with me and see behind-the-scenes fun and my adventures, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at @MeChristopher. That's MECHRISTOPHER. You can also follow Accidental Information on Instagram and Facebook at Accidental Information, and on Twitter at Accidental Info. Also, we publish original articles weekly about following your passions, getting creative, and a lot more, all at accidentalinformation.com. Lastly, if you love the show and want to spread the goodness, go tell a friend about it. As in literally text someone or go email it to them. I'd love it. Also, make sure you subscribe to receive new episodes automatically each week. Thanks again for joining the conversation. Okay, that's it. We'll talk again next week.